right, I'd like to welcome you this evening or on the replay to this live stream. We are going to um, build a weather app today, and we're going to use SwiftUI while we do it. This is going to be a two-part video and kind of going to be this format going forward. So I will do a design in SwiftUI one week, and then I'll cover the same design in UIKit the next week, and we'll just alternate every other week. We'll have a new design. So next Tuesday we will have we'll have the UIKit version of what we're going to do today. And then the following week after that, I'll do a new app that will start with SwiftUI or UIKit and then follow up with the complementary one. So today we are looking at building a weather app, as you can see here. The idea here is we're just kind of doing the typical stuff: forecast, daily forecast, what today's weather is, what tomorrow's weather is, and we're gonna use some features like sorry, just moving into the camera. We're gonna do some features like gradients today. We are gonna look at some alignment stuff based on text, and a little bit of everything that has to deal with SwiftUI, custom fonts. That's typically what I like to do, and I guess that's about it. If you have any questions, please just throw them into the chat, and I will answer them as I go. We're gonna break this up into a few sections. So the first section we're gonna start on is this section here, where it's just the date, the location, and the current weather. And then we'll progress down to the next section, which will be this little table view, table sort of contraption we have here in the middle with humidity, UV index, rain, and wind. And then we'll then move to this bi-hourly forecast, which should be like an alternating hour. So 10, 12, 2 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 6 o'clock. That's what this is. Then we'll do the tomorrow forecast. This we already covered, so it's kind of a repeat there. And then finally, we'll wrap up doing a 10-day forecast and see how that looks. So we should be done fairly within the hour. I'm trying to keep these under an hour or inside of an hour, or maybe just slightly over. So that's what we're doing. Let's get into the code. All right, looking at the project setup, we have the same utilities folder I pretty much use in every project. So the fonts that we're going to use in this particular project are in the utilities folder. We only using 2 today. The rounded corner, font extension, custom font, and palette color, all pretty much the same that I do every week. If you're interested in how the custom font works, I have a video you can watch on more specifics to that. Rounded corner just allows us to have specific corners rounded, either the top right, top left, top right, bottom left, bottom right, and we can specify 1 or 4 of those corners. So that's kind of what the rounded corner utility is. And as you can see, we have a supporting views file, and that's pretty much where everything is located today. The project file is in the description, so you can download it there. And I'm going to go ahead and get to it. We're going to start with the header view. And as I said, we'll look at that, what we're going to do before I start. Let me just get it there. And here, we're going to basically work on this, the text here, this icon, the icon here, the degrees, and the feels like. And that's what we're looking to do today, or first actually. Hopefully we're doing everything today. So yeah, that's the agenda. And let's get it going. So moving back into Xcode, I'm gonna go ahead and close this left panel, and I'm gonna fix my previews so we can kind of work a little bit better. I'm gonna add a color, and I'm gonna do base blue, and I'm going to do a preview layout fixed. We're gonna say 390 by 400 and save. And then remember, you have to, for previews to work in a specific size, we have to go to selectable, and now we can view it that way. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is create the main container of our header view, and that is going to be built in, sorry, just moving things around. That is going to be built inside of a VStack, is going to be what our main container is going to be. Obviously, we have the, again, I'm not showing the design, but let's go back really quick. We have this text here that we're seeing up in the upper left, then the icon, then the 80 degrees Fahrenheit, and the feels like. So display wise, the entire thing will be in a VStack. I wanted to kind of make sure I kind of talk more in regards to why I'm doing things instead of just doing things. Okay, so first thing we're gonna do is create, we can just command click and embed in VStack. And now we have a couple of little individual things. So going back to the design, we have this section over here with the date and the location. And so that has to get done. And then we're going to use that. We're going to actually embed that into an HStack, and then the reason being is we're going to, obviously the two texts, the November and the Miami, are stacked on top of each other. So that's in a VStack, but the entire view will be wrapped in an HStack with a spacer. So that way we can push it to the left corner of the header. So the next thing we want to do in the code is we want to command click on the text view, and we can say embed in VStack. And then we'll click on the VStack and say embed in HStack. So this is perfect, what is what we're looking for in the structure. And then we can go ahead and add a spacer here for this particular view. So we have a header here, and then, a text here, and we can add our secondary text. So that gives us the two text fields we need for it. So the first text view needs to have the date, so we can just put in any arbitrary date. So we'll put in the 2nd of November of Wednesday, and then we'll put in Miami, Florida for the location. So we are good there. And then the stuff, let's refresh preview so it fixes. And then here we want to make sure that our fonts are there. So we're going to do font.custom and then say regular, and the size is 18. And we can go ahead and copy that and paste it, and we'll change Miami to bold, and we'll leave it at 18. So right now our text is center, so we just need to update the VStack to have the alignment set to dot leading. And now everything is pushed to the left. Okay, so we're good there. And as you can see, this HStack's color is black, and we want to make it white. So we're going to go foreground, foreground white. Make it a bit easier to read in that section. And we can add a little bit of padding as well. So we'll say padding, and we'll do horizontal, and we'll say 20. So that will bring it in. All right. So the first thing we need inside of our VStack is created. And the next step we have to do is create an image. So we can say image and we can do rainy and we'll make it resizable. And then we'll add some padding and that will be horizontal. Sorry, we're not adding padding, we're adding a frame. And we're going to say that the width is 160 and the height is 160. All right. So that's good here. So we have our image. Let's update preview and that's good. So now all we have to do is add the bottom portion of our header, which is going to show the degrees and then it's going to show the feels like. So again, we're going to use an HStack to display this section. And the HStack is going to contain a bunch of text views. So we have a text view here. We can just start with first, and then we'll say 80. All right, so that's the first text view that we need, and we actually need a few of them. So I'm going to go ahead and paste those two down, and then I will command click on this HStack, and we'll just say embed in HStack again. And we're going to copy this HStack, and we're going to add some space and add another one. And in between this HStack and the other HStack, we're going to add a spacer so we can spread that apart. Okay, so the first thing that we want to do is we want to update the font for all of this and kind of update the text. So the first thing we can do is change the text. So this is 80 Fahrenheit, and this is also 80 Fahrenheit. And spacer, and then we want to take this HStack down here and embed it into a VStack, and we can add another text view, and this one's going to say feels like. Save. All right, and this is where we are. So we have some of the text here, and previews is acting funny today. All right, so that's good there. So let's go ahead and update the fonts first. So I'm going to change the first one, and this is going to be bold, and it's going to be a font size of 100. The next one is going to be regular, and that's going to be also 100. So that takes care of those two. The feels like is going to be custom regular 18, which is perfect. And then we need the 80 and the Fahrenheit to be bold 18. So a couple things. We have this feels like over here that needs to be a left justified. So we can update that by saying here spacing dot leading. Sorry, not spacing. Alignment dot leading. Alignment dot leading. There we go. So now we have what we're looking for here. The text is a little, obviously it's really spread out, and it should be a little closer, and the color needs to change. So let's go ahead and do some of that here. Foreground color is white, and the padding of the horizontal is 20. And I put that in the wrong one. It should be on the HStack, not the VStack. So that'll push it out. And now you can see we have this is aligned here. We have this this one here that we still want to bring in a bit more. So we need to fix that. But that gives us what we're looking for here. Now, this entire HStack, we want the text to be aligned. So we have this here and this here. And what we want is we want the 80 to be aligned to the bottom of the text on the left side. So in order to do that on the H stack, we're going to do an alignment. And instead of just saying bottom, so if we put in bottom, you can see that it won't be aligned with the text. And that isn't what we're looking for. So if we go instead, if we go dot last text baseline, it'll then pop up and be aligned to the 80 up here will be aligned with the 80 down here. And now we have them both on the same plane. So that works out really well there. And then we have this 80-degree Fahrenheit, and I'm missing actually the degree part of that. So let's copy and put that in and put that in and refresh. And I want to fix this spacing here. So I'm going to say spacing and set it to 0. And alignment, I think we are good to go. And so we still have this is out a bit and we need it to kind of come in. So what we'll do is we'll add another spacer and then push that in a bit. So now we have it to where each of the two things we need are kind of closer together, but still have a little bit of spacing. And if you change the width, it'll still adjust accordingly depending on the width of the screen. So everything is good for our header. I don't see anything else that needs to be done. So what we'll do is we're going to jump over to content view, and we're going to add our basic structure of the app. So in the app, we have a gradient that we're going to use. And the one wonderful thing about the gradients is we have a lot of control over how the gradients are used. So let's first create these gradients that we're going to need. So I'm going to do let gradient, and I'm going to set this equal to gradient parentheses and stops. And so the reason I'm using stops is it lets me give a gradient a color and then give a location of where I want the color to stop at. So here I have my parenthesis. Let me undo that because it'll be easier to do bracket and then line return. And then here I want my init color location. And the first one is base blue. And the location is 0.15. 0.15. All right. So before we do that, I'm going to just create a way that we can see this as we're building it. So let's update. Inside of the body, we're going to do a Z stack, and we're going to set the alignment to dot top. And then here we're going to do a scroll view and then a V stack. And then here we're going to say header view and put that down. And then on this V stack, we're going to say, we're going to create our background. So we have our gradient, and sorry, that's the dog. We're going to have a gradient, and I'm going to create a variable called background. And then in here, I'm going to say sum view, and then I'm going to do linear gradient start and stop point. So the gradient is going to be what we're passing through at the top. The start point is going to be the top. So if we wanted it to be the left or the right, we could do leading and trailing, but in this case we're doing top, and then we're saying it's going to go to the bottom. And so that's there. And then we want it to make sure that this gradient goes to the edge. So we're going to say ignores safe area. I actually don't believe this is working right. And I'll say all. And that's our background. So now in our V stack, we can add the background, and we're going to say gradient. Okay, so this edge ignores does not work, and I have a fix for it. So I'm just going to delete it since it's not needed and hit save. And conformance of gradient or shape style. And that's because it's only available on iOS 16. So I'm doing this, and I can go ahead and let me just double check. That's why I'm in iOS 15 in the app. So that's the reason why it's complaining. And now this error is gone. Our warning is gone. So we have our gradient created. We have our first color created, and our overall structure. So once previews loads, we can see a bit more. Of course, it doesn't want to load. There we go. Okay, so we have our gradient here. Let me zoom out a bit. There. All right, so we need to add 2 more colors, because right now, if the design shows, it kind of goes from blue to white. And so we're going to add another color. So comma, we're going to do dot init, color and location. We're going to do a dot base off white. So not quite white. And then the location is going to be 0.4. And we can save that. And so now you can see it's adjusting a little bit more. Our 80% is sort of not showing up right now. And then we're going to do another comma, and we're going to say init color dot white. And then finally 0.95 is the location. So right now things aren't, there's a couple of things. You'll notice that the top of this is not working correctly. And I think this might be a deficiency or a issue with the way gradients work for some reason. But what we can do is we can add a color at the top to cover up the fact that we have this big gap up here. So inside of the Z stack, we're going to do a rectangle, and we're going to do a fill, and we're going to say color dot base blue. And then we're going to do a frame and say that the height is 500. That's there. And then we want to say dot edges, ignore safe area, and top. And that'll push this up to the top of the frame. And again, we can't see all of the text right now. And this blue that you're seeing behind it will get covered up once we add more content. So right now it looks a little weird, but as we build it, this will all disappear. So we've done our header view. The next thing we want to do, if we look back at the design, is we want to build this little table section. Now, when I built it, I built it just using HStacks, and then I realized after I probably could have built this in grids. So I apologize. I should have done it in grids, but we're going to do it in using HStacks instead, or using stacks instead of using grids. So if we Command Shift O into the weather table view, and we can get started there. So the first thing we want to do is preview is updated, and I'll switch it to the preview here. And again, we are going to go back to the design really quick and just kind of look at what we're doing. So we have this overall table, and really it's really just 8 text views that we're looking at, and we're just displaying them in sort of a grid. So we can fake it, and that's what we're going to do. So the first thing we want to do is embed this into a V stack so that we can do 1 and then 2 going across. So let's do that next. We'll go back to Xcode, command click, and we're going to say embed in VStack. Next, we have the top section of this, which is going to have 2 text views, or technically 4. So we can go ahead and command click on this and say embed in HStack. And then we're going to just copy this text, paste it, then copy the HStack, and then, we're going to copy the HStack and paste those. Sorry, undo that. Before we do that paste, we're going to command click on the H stack and say embed in H stack, and then we can paste down our H stack. So we have the two views that we need. So the first text view is going to say humidity. So we can go ahead and update that. We also have 80% that's being displayed in this one. And this one here, we're going to say UV index. And finally, we're going to say 4/10. And I don't know what is going on with previews, but it just keeps erroring. Okay, so we have the top of this, and we're going to update the overall H stack is going to have an alignment that's going to equal dot bottom, which really isn't going to do anything visually right now, but it works. Okay, so we want to make this dynamic because if we go back to the design, we have two of these tables. We have the first one, which everything is all white. And then if we scroll down, we have another one where the text labels are gray and they're different colors and the table's a different color. So rather than building this 2 times, we'll just build it once and make it so that we can customize our table. So back to the screen, we are going to do a couple of variables. So the first one is going to be the title color. So the color of the text on the left side. So I call it title, and we're going to set that, default it to white. And then we have the data of the table. We're going to set that to a color of .white. And then we're looking at the color of the divider. So divider color, and we'll say color equals .white. So basically, when we create this table view up here at the very top, that one will be white, and we don't have to actually add any parameters. And the one down at the bottom is when we'll pass in the custom colors so that it can look different. So we have our title, we have our data, we have our divider color. And now we can go ahead and add a foreground color to the humidity. So we're going to say foreground color, and we're just going to pass in title color. And we can copy that and paste it for UV index. And then set the custom font to, set the text to the custom font. Custom dot, here is bold and 18. And we can copy this one for the, this is regular. And then the one below it is going to be bold 18. And then we just need to set this one to foreground color dot data color. And that's there. And then finally, we're just going to put a spacer in between these two text views. So that way it pushes and does what it needs to and fills the space. So we have this H stack here. That's good. We're gonna basically use the same title colors and fonts. So I'm gonna take this foreground and font and paste it into the title. I'm gonna take the data color and the other one and paste it in, and then I'm gonna say that this is a spacer there. So we have our top one done. Now, in between here, we should have a divider. So I'm going to do new line and say divider, parenthesis. And then we're going to do an overlay. And we're going to do a divider color dot frame. And we're going to set the width to 1 and the height to 50. All right, and we have to add a little bit of an offset because there's a gap in between and the way that these stacks work. So in order to do that, we're just going to say dot offset, and we're going to say y:8. All right. So that's there. And then we have UV index. We have a padding that we need to add. So at the end of, and the inner, we want to put a padding on each one. So I'm going to put a padding on the H stack here, and then padding on this H stack here, so it's not brushed up against that. Okay. And so that's our first section. We can minimize this H stack here, and we're going to do a divider that's going to go horizontally, and we're going to say dot frame, and the height is 1, and we're going to do an overlay, and the overlay will have a divider color. All right. So now we have our divider coming across, and then we can just take the entire H stack we had above and copy it and paste it. And now we have the exact same thing here. So we want to, let's see, just minimize this a second. Okay, so that's good. All right, so we have humidity, and the text is sort of different. So we're going to change all of this. So this is going to be rain. We're going to say that this is 89%. The next one is going to be wind. And then finally, we're going to say 25 kilometers. Boom. And all of that is good. And then we want to have, so we have this padding here on the trailing. On the next curly brace, we're going to do dot padding top. And we're going to set that to 5. And then we're going to go down one more curly brace, and we're going to say dot foreground color dot white. Do I? Yeah, that's still fine. Okay. So everything is fine, and it looks sort of what we're trying to do here. It's harder to see it like this because of the way that it's displaying. So let's go back to content view. And after header view, we're going to say weather table view, and we're going to add that. And again, it's a little bit hard to see. And let me just make sure that I did this 0.15, 0.4, and 0.95. Yep. Alignment is top, blue 5. That's good. Scroll view. Yep, I'm gonna just change this to say color dot base blue, just so we can see everything working correctly, instead of and we'll add the gradient back in once everything is in. Okay, so we just need to add a little bit of a padding to the actual thing here. And one thing I want to change inside of the weather table view, we're adding a trailing padding of 5. I'm going to remove that because we want the one for the 80%. So the 80% one is fine. The second one on the right is not. And then we want to remove the one on the 25 kilometers as well. And now let's go back, and I'll show what I'm looking at. Is you can see that everything is pushed on this edge and on this edge, and then we can just add padding here and push them all in. So that's why I did the change. Okay, now we have our scroller that's going to come up down underneath this. So the by hourly. So I'm going to go ahead and add that view here, even though we haven't started it yet. But now I can save it, and you can see that it's popping in. And now let's go to the by hourly view and see how we can make this work. So we have an item that gets repeated over and over again, and we're obviously not going to pass any data through. So it will just repeat the same text and same copy that we do just to get it going. So we can command click on this text view and embed in an H stack. Then we can command click on the text and we can say embed, and then we'll do scroll view. And then finally, we'll command click on the text again and say embed in H stack. I'm going to, for now, even though I'm going to use a text view, I'm going to delete the text view just so that we don't get confused. And we're going to, actually we can keep it and we can say command click and embed, or we can hit repeat and we can say 0. We can just hit return here and change this to 12. So we'll create 12 items, and you can see here that we've got the 12 that we need. And so that's there. And the next thing we can do is we want to embed this text into an H stack, and then command click and embed this into a V stack. And we can just copy this text and paste it again. We'll change this to say 80 degrees. And then we'll change this to say 10 o'clock. Save. All right, so that's the first. The VStack is the second part of that. We're going to do an image here, and we're going to call it rainy and set it to resizable and set the frame width to 48 and the height to 48. All right, so that's there. We can update this one to say that the alignment is leading there. All right, so now we have that going. We have our V stack has text right now that is not showing up. So let's add a foreground color to this text and set it to base dark blue. And that's there. This H stack, we want to change the alignment to center. And that's good there. We have an H stack, we have a V stack. This overall H stack will have some padding horizontally. So padding horizontal, and we'll just leave it at that. And so we have our H, and then our next H. Sorry, that isn't needed. That there, foreground, good, padding, good. Okay, so everything is good here. After this H stack, we're going to do, am I doing that right? Let me just verify. Yep, inside of this this H stack, we're going to do an if statement, and we're going to say if the index is not equal to 11, then we're going to add a divider. And I'm sorry, this needs to say index, not item. Divider dot frame with a width of 2. Width of 2. And then we'll do an overlay. And the overlay will be color dot base light gray. And the opacity will be set to 50%, so 0.5. And now you can see we have the line here. Okay. Not quite sure why the text is not appearing. So that takes care of that. So we have our for each is basically done. And then we have an H stack here that needs to get some attributes. So we're gonna first put some vertical padding on this and set it to 5. We're going to add some leading padding and set it to 10. We're going to set the background color, the background to color.white. And we're going to set the corner. Actually, let me stop and let me just come here and put this into a Z stack. And we're going to do color.base blue. Okay. Alrighty, just so I'm sure that that's good. Okay. Maybe this is why. There you go. I'm going to remove that background color for a second. Actually, no, that's right. So the color here is white. When we're going to add a corner radius, so we're going to say corner radius 25. And the corners we're going to do on the left and the right. So we're going to say dot top left and dot bottom left. And that'll give us the capsule sort of edging that we're looking for. And then the final thing is the padding is going to be leading and 20. Good. So that's our H stack. Our scroll view is not going to have anything, but our actual H stack container will have some padding at the top of 40 and padding at the bottom of 30. Oops, didn't mean to minimize that. Oh, I closed my, I closed the project. So Xcode, and sorry about that. Good. Okay, so bottom, and we'll refresh. Okay, now let's update the scroll view really quick. So the scroll view here is going to be we're going to put the axis on the horizontal, and then we're going to say show indicators is going to be false and set that to there. And that's why our text wasn't showing, because it was by default set to vertical, so we couldn't see it. And right here you can see where it's rounded corners instead of being a capsule. So let's go ahead and change this preview and do a fixed size, and we'll say 200, and the height will be, sorry, the fixed width will be 500 and the height will be 100 maybe. And just need to go here and change it. And now you can see this is doing what it should. So that's good. And we just need to go in and do some font updates. So the first fonts we need to update is the 80 degrees and the time. So the 80 is going to get a bold font of 14, and we can just paste that into the 10 p.m. and we're going to do regular for the time. And that is all we have to do here. So we have our little scroller now. If we go back to here, we can move it from side to side, which is what we're looking for. And if we go back to content view, we'll see our scroller moving from left to right, and it's padded perfectly and aligned all the way up the line here. So this part of this is done. Okay. So the next thing that we want to do is we have 2 more things to add and we're finished. So we want to add the forecast for tomorrow, and that'll be in the next day forecast. and then we want to do the 10-day forecast. So we'll do, but before we do that, let's go ahead and add our weather table. So we're going to add it, and then we're going to customize it for the design that we're looking for. So, to match the design, we're going to say title color. We're going to set that to base light blue. We're going to say the data color is base dark blue. And the divider color is going to be base light gray. And we're going to do some padding, and it's going to be set to 20. All right. And we can go ahead and add the next day forecast view. Will get added in between there, and I'm going to go ahead and change this back to background. And I'm probably, the reason that this is, what's really weird that this isn't showing everything I'm looking for. Let me just change this to be like 3. And Xcode preview is loading, and it's loading, and it's loading. And I am going to just ignore this load. That does work. It's really weird that it's not showing the way that it's showing for me. Let me just make sure that I'm not missing something. Next day forecast weather and 10-day forecast. So I'm going to go ahead and add the second thing here. I think I know why. I think that 10-day forecast pushes this gradient down since it's on the VStack. And so right now this isn't tall enough for it to spread. So that's why we're not seeing like what it should be. So let's start with next day forecast. And next day forecast is pretty simple. It's just a few views inside of an HStack. So first thing we want to do is take this text and embed in an HStack. And let's look at the design really quick. So what we're doing is we have this text view here. The text, this can be 2 more text views there. And then we have the same on this side. So we have a couple of things going on. It's not really complicated with this image in the middle. So let's go back to the screen. And so we have our first text. We have our HStack. Then we can command click and say embed in VStack. And that'll be the first section on the left side that we need to do. And we can just go ahead and change this text to say tomorrow. And we can copy that and we can paste it. We can command click on the second tomorrow and embed that into a VStack, copy the text, paste it, and now we have 2 text views there. And we want to say the 2nd of November and Wednesday here. Okay. We want to make the text here and this custom font. So we're going to do a custom font of bold with the size of 18 and a foreground color of dark blue. So that puts that there. And then we have these other 2 that we need. So we're going to just paste in the custom font. We're going to change this to regular. And we're going to change the size to 14. And we're going to do base light gray. All right. So we have our first stack there. We're going to do a line. We're going to say a spacer. We're going to do a couple of lines and another spacer. And we're going to add our image. So in between here, we're going to say rainy. dot resizable dot frame width 150, height 150, and save. So now we have our our image in between, and then on the right side we're going to have text there too. So I'm going to just, let's see, I'm not going to copy that because there's a lot, it's a little different. So we'll just say this is a V stack, and then inside of here we'll do an H stack, and we'll add 2 text views. So here we'll say 96, copy and paste, and we'll do 80 degrees Fahrenheit inside of this one. And we'll take this text and we're going to do a text there, and we're changing this to say cloudy. All right, so the structures there, we have to do some do some font stuff. So here, the first font is the 96 is going to be a bold of 34. This 80 degree is a custom font, and that will be regular, and the size will be 14. And then the cloudy will get a custom font, and it will be regular and 14 as well. Oops. And the foreground here, we'll say foreground color dot base light gray is down. And we can take this foreground and put it on the H stack and change it to base dark blue. And that will take care of that. So this is good. Now we just need to fix the alignment. So in this H stack, we want to make sure that the text aligns correctly. So we're going to say in the H stack alignment dot last text baseline, and then we're going to do the spacing and set it equal to 0. And that's all we need here. So we have our H stack with the spacing, we have our foreground color, we have our text, and we can come down here and add some padding. So padding, and we'll do horizontal, and we'll set it to 20. So that'll bring that in a bit. And as you can see, this text tomorrow should be left justified. So we just have to change this V stack to set it to alignment dot leading. And then we also want to add an alignment to the V stack internally here so that November 2nd is lined up. And then we can do, after that, we can add spacing and set it to 0. So that is there. So we have everything we need. Spacer, bloop, bloop, bloop. Horizontal 30, not 20. So this is a 30 and save. Okay. So our header, our next day forecast view is complete. If we go back to content view, close that and load it, you can see now we have this working perfectly fine. We have our scroller there. So we're getting close. And now we just need our 10-day forecast. And then hopefully everything will start to look right with this gradient. So we'll do our last one, which is the 10-day forecast. And it is pretty straightforward. We're kind of coming in on an hour or maybe a little less. So this is the last view that we're going to do. Command click on 10-day forecast, and we can go ahead and embed into a V stack. And we have this here where we can just say 10-day forecast. And we're going to set the font size to 24 bold, and our dark, we're going to use the foreground color of dark blue. On the VStack, we can add some padding, and we'll put top, and we'll set it to 25, and we'll do dot padding dot horizontal, and we'll set that to 20. Yeah. Okay. So after this text view, we're going to add a VStack. And then inside of this VStack, we're going to create our for each. So we're going to do a for each 0 less than 10. And we'll say item in. And then we'll do another H stack here. And now we want to do this the repeating thing we have to do. So the first thing we want to do is display the date and the date and the day. So we have an H stack, and we have a text, and we're just going to do 2 of those. And oops, sorry about that. I don't know what was going on with me dragging stuff all willy-nilly, but sorry. So we have here. So now we're going to update the font for the second one and for the third one. So the font for this one is going to be 16 bold. The font for the second one is going to be regular 16. And we can set the foreground color to base light gray. All right. So in this first one, we'll say 28 May, comma. The next one we'll say Sunday. That's good there. So we have our text. We can then do a dot foreground color dot base dark blue, and that'll change those to dark blue. And that'll be the first H stack there. We're going to add a spacer, and then we're going to add an image. And we'll just use the same one we've been using. So rainy dot resizable dot frame. And then we'll set the width and the height to 50. All right. After this, we'll add another spacer. And as you can see, it's starting to build out. We'll add a new line. And now we want to do an H stack here. So we'll say H stack. And then in this H stack, we're going to say that well, actually, we'll leave that alone for now. We're going to just do a text view. And we're going to do 21. And we'll copy that text view. And we're going to do 15 degrees Celsius or Fahrenheit. Doesn't really matter. So it's just filler. We'll change it to F since everything else is. We'll say that this is 80, and we'll say that this is 99. That's more accurate to Florida weather anyways. Okay, so we have this 99, and we have this Fahrenheit, and we just need to give it some styling. So we have a foreground color of base dark blue and a custom bold of 16. So we'll add that. And then we have a foreground color of light gray. So we're going to say base light gray. And we're going to do regular. And this is 14. So that's there. So now we're good. Spacer there. And then after this H stack, we just have to do a spacer, and then we're going to do text. We're going to say rainy, and we'll paste the foreground color is base dark blue, but this time the opacity is going to be 0.8. We'll do custom, regular, and 16 is good. So now we're good on forecast. Everything works. And now all we have to do is go back to content view. And now we have everything kind of pushed where it should be. And if we scroll, we can see everything is here. So um, this background gradient is really pertaining on really based on the amount of content that's there. So if I start to like if I remove the 10-day, it's going to look wrong because the height of the V stack is different. The reason it's I didn't put the background on the scroll view is because then the gradient scrolls. And so I wanted it to be here. Now, if I wanted to, I could technically put a height. I could say frame min height, I'll say max height is dot infinity. Don't think that would work, and it's not. So it definitely has to grow with the content. Um, so 10-day forecast ends up fixing it, and this is where we are. So yeah, I think this was a pretty good introduction of, or not introduction, but a pretty good breakdown of how this works. Um, and I you know, the more that you do Swift UI, the easier it gets. And I really do uh I love using Swift UI, and I think that the more you use it, the better you'll get. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. But we are completely done today. And Fabrice, thanks for the compliment. Um, I see it, and I'm trying to show it, but I don't have enough room in this particular view, so I'm gonna go to solo and um and post. And thanks for coming, Steve. I appreciate it. Eh, you being here is good, even if there's only a few of you. But I really appreciate you guys coming and showing support. And hopefully, as the channel grows, more and more people will interact, and we'll get to the point with having more questions during live stream. But I'm here. If you have a question, please ask me. If not, you can post any questions you want in the comments, and I will answer anybody's question there. So please feel free to post them if you want. And I am going to call it a night unless somebody has a question, comment, or concern. And Alandis, thanks for participating, or at least coming and joining in. And I'm gonna move this to thank you, Fabrice. I appreciate that. Um, I'm getting better, not, and I definitely want to improve my skills on there. But I'm gonna move this to Friday. I'm sorry, next Tuesday is gonna be the UIKit version of this exact design. So if you want to see what this looks like in the UIKit version, show up next week or anytime after that. You can just watch the replay. So again, thank you very much, and Days, thank you. I appreciate the compliment, and everyone, just like Alanda said, everyone have a good night.